My husband tried to buy me a new engagement ring, but my sister stole it and said it was for her, which is the sort of sentence you expect to read under a photo of a flaming dumpster behind a bakery. And I'm Layla, 31, a pediatric occupational therapist who spends her weekdays coaxing tiny hands into new tricks and her weeknights teaching my own clumsy heart that trust is a muscle, not a guarantee. And if you'll sit with me a while, I'll tell you how a circle of metal turned a family into a mirror and showed us who we actually are. It started nice, which is how these stories always set you up. Ben, my husband, gentle to the marrow, a man who labels leftovers and kisses our dog on the forehead like it's a ritual, had been saving for months without me noticing, which is impressive because I am the kind of person who notices when the bananas feel philosophical. We got engaged young with a ring he could afford then, a small sapphire that looked like a secret. It's beautiful and I adore it, but last winter my car died, our roof leaked like it had a grudge, and we dipped into savings. After we dug out and exhaled, he started making jokes about one day and sparkly do-overs. I said, please no, I don't need bigger, because I don't, but what I didn't know was he heard that as permission to surprise me in a different way, not bigger but a sir. He designed something simple and extraordinary, a thin band with 2 small stones, sapphire for then, diamond for now, like a sentence with the right comma. He told my sister by accident. He came by the bakery where she works, Nira, 27, chaotic good turned chaotic ? And asked if she knew my ring size. You have her gloves in your car, she said, laughing, because she's classic younger sibling, quick at the hack, slow at the consequence. He left and she texted me, if you were a ring size, what would you be? I sent back a gif of a donut and never thought about it again. The jeweler called to say the ring was ready on a Thursday afternoon when my clinic schedule stacked like Jenga. Ben asked if Nira could pick it up because the shop closes at 5 and he was in surgery. He's a third-year ortho resident. Surgery is half job, half insult to the calendar. Nira said, of course, love you. Can I wear perfume in a jewelry store? Will the diamonds faint? And hung up. She put on her leather jacket like a decision, walked in, said, I'm Layla, because the invoice was in my name, and the clerk handed her a little velvet box with a bow that might as well have been a fuse. I didn't know any of this until 7:14 that night when I opened Instagram to zone out and saw my sister's story. A close-up of a hand, not mine, a ring very much mine, with the caption, when you know, you know. It was one of those live photos where the last half second gives you away. In the whisper of motion, her breath hitching, a giggle and a man's thumb, her boyfriend's, sweeping across her knuckles like he was writing his name. In the corner, a tag for the jeweler. My stomach did a magic trick, now you see the floor, now you don't. First came denial, Old Faithful. My sister is messing with me. She's doing a bit. Then the blood rush anger that makes your ears ring. Then the cognitive behavioral therapist in my head who sounds like a patient's grandmother. Call first before you write a script for other people's mouths. I called. She didn't answer. I texted, cute ring, congrats to who? 3 dots appeared and disappeared like a nervous rabbit. Then, it's time, she wrote. He and I have been talking for months. He knew what I liked. I wanted to tell you before the world did, but you know how it is. I stared at the words until they blurred. Did you pick up something for me today? I typed. For Ben. 3 dots. Oh, she wrote. I thought it was for me. I called again. She answered on the 4th ring, voice high and syrupy. Layla. Where are you? I asked. At Mama's, she said, and suddenly I could smell the pot of mint tea, hear the TV tuned to a channel that only shows women debating recipes, and see my mother's hands always moving. Put me on speaker. That's dramatic, she said, but she did. Mama, I said. Nira picked up my ring from Ben and posted it as her engagement. Silence. A spoon clinked. My mother's voice came through, careful, like a tightrope. Whatever this is, come here. We'll talk. We'll talk is the family spell that has both healed and harmed us, and I drove because I am still someone who shows up even when my feet know better. Ben texted while I was at a red light, on my way home. Got stuck. Love you. I wrote, go to my parents. Emergency. He wrote, OMDub. When I walked in, the television was muted and the air felt baptized in sugar. Nira sat at the table with the ring on her finger, palm turned upward as if to show a wound. Our mother stood behind her, one hand on her shoulder like a claim and a comfort. "Look," Mama said, smiling too hard, "isn't it beautiful?" Her eyes begged me to be a good daughter and a better liar. "It is," I said and looked directly at Nira. "It's also mine." "Ben told me to pick it up," she said, chin tilted. "He didn't say it was yours." "He designed it for Layla," my mother snapped, then softened. "But feelings are messy. Maybe it's a sign. You're both ready for the next step. Allah wrote our fates, yes? Allah does a lot of heavy lifting in our family when we want to evade accountability." "Ben designed it for me," I repeated. "With stones that mean our story. He asked you to pick it up because a clock exists." I reached out my hand. "Give it to me." Nira slid her fingers under the box, then took the ring off like it hurt. I saw it then, the faint dent where it had pressed her skin, the tiny wince of letting go. "I thought it was for me," she said again, less sure. "I thought my boyfriend and I, we've been talking about rings. I thought Ben was helping." "Did your boyfriend order this?" I asked. She looked down. "Not this one." Ben arrived, breathless, hair smashed from the OR cap, holding a bag with bakery cookies like an apology gift to whoever needed one. He walked in, saw me, saw the ring on the table, saw my mother's jaw, saw my sister's eyes, and I watched him put the story together deservingly fast. "Oh," he said softly to Nira. "No, then to me, I'm sorry." He pulled a folded receipt from his pocket like a rescue rope and smoothed it. My name. The hand-drawn layout. 2 stones, 1 sapphire, 1 diamond. He turned it around to my sister. "I asked you because I wanted it to be a surprise. I thought it would be sweet to include you. I didn't think you'd." He stopped because he is a kind man and avoids verbs that bruise. "I didn't steal it," Nira said quickly, voice wobbling. I really thought Kamal and I have been." He sent me photos of rings last week. "I thought he told Ben." She looked at Ben. "Didn't he?" "No," Ben said. "He didn't." Our mother said, Okay. So there is misunderstanding." She spread her hands like a stage magician, showing the emptiness of the hat. "We return it to the person it was meant for. We apologize. We breathe. We have cookies." She looked at me. "Be graceful, Habibti." I have been asked to be graceful my whole life by people who left messes in rooms I cleaned. I breathed. I nodded. I picked up the ring and slid it on. It fit like it had been listening. My sister watched, bottom lip caught between her teeth, a habit from childhood when she used to get caught with jam. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Layla, I'm so." I believed her. And I didn't. Both can be true when someone is sorry for what they did and sorrier they got caught. What I knew like a fact, if that Instagram story had lived on the internet for another hour, it would have become the truth. By the time we corrected it, people would be half-rooted for the lie. "What now?" I asked, to the room, to the story. "What now," my mother said, relieved to be given a task, "is we celebrate properly." She stood, reached for the nice tea glasses, and started talking about cousins and dates and when do we tell Teta. It took me a second to realize she meant Ben and me, our almost engagement. In the glare of a crisis, she wanted to pivot to joy, family's favorite contortion. Ben squeezed my hand under the table like Morse code. "You okay?" I squeezed back, not even close. We walked out into the wet evening with the ring on my finger and its shadow on my palm like proof. In the car I cried, then apologized to no one. Ben held the steering wheel and then my knee. "I'm sorry," he said again. "I should have." "You should have nothing," I said fiercely. "You did a loving thing. My sister did a selfish thing. That's not on you." "I involved her," he said. "I invited chaos." "We both did," I said. "We thought family was safe." We sat in the driveway for a long minute, silence making a nest. "I don't want our engagement story to be this," I said. "I don't want to tell people in 20 years, your aunt tried to audition for my role." "Then let's not," he said. Let's make our story now. We went inside and he didn't get on one knee because the day had used up all its theater. He stood in our kitchen where so much of life happens and he said, "Layla, will you marry me?" like a full, steady sentence. I said yes with both lungs. He put the ring back on, this time as a promise, not a retrieval. We ate leftover pasta standing up because it tasted like exactly enough. If stories ended here, Instagram would be less useful. The next morning my sister's boyfriend called me. Kamal is sweet, an engineer who laughs like the punchline refuses to leave his mouth. "We need to talk," he said, and those are words I'm learning to dread less because they can also mean repair. He told me he'd been looking at rings for Nira, yes, but had not asked Ben for help, yes, and had seen her story and his heart left his body like a cartoon. He went to my parents' house after we left and they all agreed to delete the story and post a little just trying on my sister's ring instead, like the internet is a chalkboard where we can wipe chalk dust lies into the air and call it clean. "It can't be a joke if the punchline is me," I said. "She needs to apologize publicly. Not for clout, for clarity." "I agree," he said quietly. She's ashamed." "Good," I said, and then softer, because I am not my worst moment. Shame is only useful if it leads you somewhere warmer. I texted Nira a script because sometimes sorry needs scaffolding. "Here's what you can post," I wrote. "Yesterday I shared a ring assuming it was mine to share. It wasn't. It was my sister's. I'm sorry for causing confusion and taking up space in her moment. Please send your congratulations to Layla and Ben, who deserve all the love." She read it and wrote back, "That's so formal, lol." I typed, "I'm not lol," and she posted it nearly word for word. The comments divided into two neat piles, people who said "oh sisters" and people who said "girl." I ignored them, which is my new form of prayer. Family, however, is not an algorithm you can mute. My mother called to say Aunt Rana had thoughts about how we were punishing Nira when she was just excited. My father called to say my grandfather wanted to know why the girls of today do everything online and cannot simply sit in a room and look at each other like a decent table. My cousins texted cheering gifs. My uncle texted nothing because men like him prefer their messes off camera unless it's a soccer match. We planned a small dinner to make our official announcement to the people who would otherwise hear it in the produce aisle. Ben owed a 24-hour call on the night my mother wanted because of course, so we chose a Sunday. Nira arrived with a sheet cake that said "Love Wins" in frosting so neon it felt like a dare. She hugged me before I could decide. "I'm sorry," she murmured into my hair, for the first time sounding like the girl who used to sneak into my bed during thunderstorms and ask me to explain lightning like it was a bedtime story. "I was so afraid you'd get there without me. To that part of life. To being chosen. It's stupid. I know. I see things go to other people and I feel like the lost kid in musical chairs and I panic." There it was, the part one almost understood. "Being tragic is not a personality," I said as kindly as I could. "You don't need to steal a chair. You can bring one." She nodded, tears and mascara carving her into a watercolor. "I'll bring one next time." "Good," I said. "Because my chairs are expensive." It made her laugh, which is the sound I grew up following out of the forest. We ate too much, we toasted, my mother cried into a dish towel. My father gave a speech with 2 jokes about the car's alternator because that's his love language, parts and metaphors. For a week, the ring felt like a small animal I had to protect. I took it off at work and tucked it inside the inner pocket of my scrubs like a talisman against sticky fingers and snack time. I did the tricks I teach my kids. When scared, count 5 things you can see, 4 you can touch, 3 you can hear, 2 you can smell, 1 you can taste. I touched the cool of the band and thought, this is ours, not anyone else's. Then, just when I thought the plot had spent itself, the jeweler called. "Hi, Layla. We wanted to confirm the resizing request," the woman said, chipper. "I didn't ask for resizing," I said, an ice cube traveling my spine. "Your sister did," she replied, gentle, "yesterday afternoon. She said there'd been a mix-up and the ring was hers." I thanked her in a tone that would make my therapist proud and drove straight there, the meaningful silence of somebody who has learned to keep receipts thrumming in my chest. When I walked in, the jeweler had the grace to look embarrassed. I'm so sorry, she said. We didn't act on it. It felt odd. It was, I said. Thank you for calling. Nura was waiting when I got home, arms full of irises, apology in a bucket. I panicked, she said before I could speak. Kamal and I fought. He said he needs time. I saw the ring on your hand and something ugly in me, Layla, I hate that version of me, took over and I called and she stopped, breathless. I hung up before they said anything. I'm sorry. Again. I feel like the villain. You're not a villain, I said. You're a person with a hole who tried to fill it with the nearest shiny thing. That's called being young or being human. The fix is never shiny. I set the flowers on the counter. You need boundaries, Nira. Not with the internet. With envy. She cried, nodded, asked if we could fix it. Not the ring, the us. The only fix I know, I said, is truth, time, and doing the opposite of what your fear tells you to do. She nodded again like I'd prescribed vegetables. And therapy, I added. Real therapy. I'll help you find someone. I'll pay for the first month if you need. She started therapy. She texted me after her second session. Apparently I think if I'm not first I'm lost. Do you ever feel that? I wrote back, I used to. Now I try to feel like I'm mine. She sent a heart. I sent a sandwich. Our family group chat calmed like a sea after a boat stopped showing off. Then the party happened. Not a blowout, not a spectacle. Just a crowd of our favorite faces under the cheap string lights I'd been saving for a moment that deserved glow. Ben's mom made toast points because she thinks parties need formality. My mother made dolma because grief and joy both eat grape leaves in our house. People came with hugs and stories and the kind of laughter that fills the freezer for later. At some point my grandfather took my hand, turned the ring around and said in Arabic that sounds like home, "May it be a fortress, not a wall." It was the best blessing I've ever heard. I wanted to stitch it into my dress. Nura gave a toast. She didn't ask permission because she knows I would have said yes and because she's learning to be brave in ways that aren't theft. She tapped her glass, stood, looked at me and said, "I'm not going to take you on my sea," and everyone laughed because even in the tender was still our family. She said, "My sister has always been the person who ties my shoes, literally and metaphorically. Last week I tied a knot in the wrong place. I'm sorry. I'm learning. Layla, you taught me that I'm sorry is only a comma if the sentence after it is different. I promise your sentence after this will be happier because of me, not in spite of me." People clapped, my eyes did that sting thing, Ben squeezed my shoulder, and in the corner Kamal leaned against the wall, eyes soft, like maybe he'd found his chair and was willing to sit. After midnight, when the last dish kissed the sink and my feet learned the alphabet of the rug again, I stood in our kitchen and looked at my hand. The ring didn't look like a plot, it looked like a decision. Ben wrapped his arms around me from behind and rested his chin on my shoulder. "You're quiet," he said. "I'm labeling," I said, "because that's our joke. When something floods, I label." "This is ours," I said, touching the ring. "This is a boundary," I added, touching my chest. "This is a lesson I would prefer not to learn again," touching my forehead. He laughed into my hair. We planned our wedding small, stubborn, real. We chose a house with a garden over a hall with an echo. We invited fewer people than a disappointing salad. The day came and the sky cooperated and my sister zipped my dress with the reverence of a tailor and a repentant thief combined. During the ceremony, the officiant asked if anyone had words, and Nira handed me a folded note I hadn't asked for, a drawing she'd made of 2 stones and a band with the caption "then plus now equals always," and I was undone not by the art but by the effort. She had given me something only I could wear. After, we danced. I am not a dancer, but I do a mean sway. My parents cried in shifts. My grandfather told the same joke 3 times about the ring being a down payment on grandchildren, and I threatened him with a water gun. At one point I saw Kamal and Nura outside under the persimmon tree, talking with their hands like a silent movie. He slid something small into her palm. Later she showed me, a ring sizer, plastic, funny. "I want to get it right," he had said. "I want to ask you when we're both looking." I hugged her so hard our earrings tangled. You want a moral? I teach children to hold pencils like wands and hope like a habit, so I collect morals the way other people collect mugs. Try these. Jealousy is a smoke alarm, not a soundtrack. Love surprises you, yes, but it also returns calls. A ring means we only if the story that brought it there used the word ask more than the word assume. When someone apologizes, listen for a new verb. When you're tempted to post the beginning of a story, make sure you own the middle. I'm Layla, 31. I spend my days celebrating the tiny triumphs of hands that finally pinch a Cheerio and nights learning that my own fingers can let go without losing. And in the morning sometimes I catch the ring in the mirror and it goes bright the way truth does. My sister is still my sister, which is to say a plot twist and a hug, sometimes both in 5 minutes. My husband is still the man who labels leftovers, which means we always know what's ours. And me? I am not the woman whose life was stolen by a velvet box on a Thursday. I am the woman who took a breath, took her ring back, took her seat, and kept making a life that fits.